And now, WolfBytes Open Mic.
The Bass Jackers.
I just came home actually from tour.
Hey guys, this is Phoenix Paul.
Hey, what's up? This is Sean Frank.
WolfBytes DJs and your favorite artists.
Sophie Francis. Sophie, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, super nice to join you guys.
What's up, guys? This is Ahmed Van Buren.
Now, Open Mic.
Hey guys, it is DJ WhtDaHek here for another edition of Open Mic, and today my guest is Don Diablo. Don, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, what's going on? Where are you at right now?
Right now I'm in Amsterdam. I'm sitting in my studio as we speak, and yeah, I've been here in self-quarantine for the last couple of months.
For those who can't see, it is a very, very pretty studio setup with lots of colors going on.
It's the future.
It is the future. Exactly. It is the
gateway, the portal to the future.
Yes, a portal to the future. And something that was really kind of futuristic, just on Saturday, you had a show in Germany.
Yes.
The first DJ to sell out a corona-proof stadium.
Yeah, whatever that means, in the sense that it's obviously it's because it's basically a very cautious way of kind of coming back and trying to make some steps towards being together with people again and enjoying music. Mm-hmm. I saw some comments, people were like, no, this is not the way to, this is not the future of clubbing. I'm like, no, you're right, it's not the future of clubbing, but this is an arena, and we're at a from a safe in a safe space at a safe distance. We are enjoying music together. And for me, anyway, I don't really mind if people are not dancing or doing whatever reaction there is to my music. There is no right or wrong reaction. For me, it's any reaction is fine, as long as people are not indifferent towards my music. I'd rather have someone think it's or it's amazing, or they really feel it, or they are completely not. But I think, for me, it was good to kind of have actually in the end a big amount of people together again and share that experience. But obviously it's an arena that normally fits tens of thousands of people, so yeah, and a lot of the credit goes to the organization and the arena itself, because they invited me and they took all the precautions. They worked together with the local government, the police, healthcare workers. This is not something me deciding hey, let's just throw a rave in a stadium, let's everybody stay away. What you have 5 feet, or what is it over there?
Yeah, 6 feet is the big number they keep throwing around.
Here it's 1.5 meters in my country, but it's not like that. It's not like, oh no, this is I wasn't allowed to go anywhere without my face mask, only once I'm in my own space. But yeah, and a lot of it was very it was an experience I wanted to have, because we are in a very, very remarkable situation in the world right now. And I think, there's so much negativity that I really needed something that was positive, and something, and also for me to kind of play new music and see, how it would connect with people.
Yeah. Well, it was definitely a different experience. And what's been any major changes? Obviously, there's no really live shows going on for you. Just more production time in the studio, perhaps, recently?
For sure. I've obviously been struggling with finishing my album. It's also had a little bit to do with my personal life, and just in general, there were a lot of things going on. Mm-hmm. Obviously, people don't really, you only see the guy on social media. You only see the guy that walks on the stage, and you obviously try to present someone who's as I guess, invincible as possible. But yeah, I think there are always different things in play, and I think in general, sometimes you put a lot of pressure on yourself, and yeah, I always want to deliver the best I can for fans and people around me. I have a lot of people that depend on me, but at the end of the day, I'm just a guy pushing buttons, trying to make great music, and I don't have a massive team of people doing stuff for me. It all has to come from one brain, and that brain has to be, I have to think clear. So I think in that sense, for me, Corona kind of came at the right time, because it has cleared my mind a little bit, because I was traveling so much that it came to the point where I remember the last shows when I was in Mexico. I was playing at EDC on the main stage, and it kind of just, I was in massive pain everywhere at that point in time, and even my gums were bleeding from exhaustion, and I was
Oh my
like,
goodness.
kind of like at the end of my physical journey almost. And obviously, once you go on stage and adrenaline shoots into your body, that's like, it's an addictive drug, because it heals anything, any pain, any sadness, any anger, any disappointment, and it just turns you into a machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me it was really, I was really pushing it because I wanted to keep all of my fans happy. I wanted to keep everyone around me happy, but at the same time there were a lot of things happening even in my team. Turned out that I had some people in my team that weren't really well, let's use an understatement, 100% honest. And these are things that happen in the background as well. So I had to do a little cleanup there, and I found out, like, I had a few knives in my back that I had to take out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as like any other situation, I'm a normal human being, and I also I run a company, and there are people there, and once you become more popular, this is the one thing I always kind of stayed away from, that idea and that concept of people taking advantage of you, because I believe in the goodness of humanity. But I did find out that there were people desperately taking advantage of me that I wasn't aware of, because you're so focused on being on the road. And
Right.
it's actually been a blessing. So I've been able to clean out the closet. I've been able to actually finally finish my house. I've been able to been working on a book. I've been working on a film. I've been working on more parts of my documentary. I've been working on the last parts of my comic book series.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working on a new clothing line, actually 2 new clothing lines. I've actually been working on a whole new concept for my show. Plus, I guess, most importantly, I've been working on a lot of new music.
Right.
Very, very excited about. And without the pressure of the music having to be something that has a place in my shows, just me making music that I believe in and I feel. And I'm even starting a couple of side projects. I don't know which one will make the cut and which one will see the light of day, but one I'm very, very super excited about musically. And it's something I'm spending a lot of time on. I guess I spoke to my mom the other day. She was like, Don, how the hell are you literally still now, still awake at 6 a.m. and still working? And it feels like you never worked harder.
Yeah.
But I think she was right in a way. I had the intention to chill out a bit, and then I was like, no, I got to do all these crazy live streams, from my swimming pool and in my toilet and on a Formula 1 racetrack. And I have a few more that are like pretty crazy. So I was like, I always want to push, the boundaries and entertain my fans and keep them happy, because everyone is at home just feeling low. And I try to find ways to, to entertain everyone and to kind of bring a bit of joy into the world.
You have a lot of different projects, like you just mentioned, going on. And the one that really caught my eye was you do film as well. Obviously, you mentioned merchandise coming out, but you had some merchandise related to Star Wars a little while back now. So you're a big Star Wars fan, are you?
I am, and it's just, for me, I never use the words merchandise, because for me it's something completely separate. I from anything that has to do with my music in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that hasn't, it goes outside of my whole team and management. It's a separate entity, a separate company. And I think, I really approach that quite seriously, to the point where, with everything I do, which is kind of I sometimes have discussions about that with my business managers, like, Don, you understand that you can make a lot more money. Like, I understand, but like, nothing that I do is in that sense really driven towards making as much money as I can. It's really, I want to deliver the best quality. And I at some point, I remember I posted a picture on my Instagram, and Star Wars and Lucasfilm saw that. It was a picture with a lightsaber on May the 4th.
Yep.
They were like, who's this guy? Why does it have so many likes? And so they invited me, flew out to London. We had discussions. I'm like, well, what can I do? I'm a musician, but I'm not going to remix the Star Wars anthem, am I? Like, that's not really cool.
Yeah.
So, but I said, no, I have another idea. Like, I also make clothing. I'm also a fashion designer. So I have an idea. Can we do this? And it was a long journey, and you have to go through the whole Disney thing, the whole Lucasfilm thing, and but somehow I made it happen. And I created a Star Wars clothing line, and I launched it in one of the most renowned store in the Netherlands on the Dam Square, where we had 3 windows. Like I think Karl Lagerfeld was the only designer before who managed to do that. So all these things kind of just went by me. I did all of these epic things, but they all like happened in between very quickly.
Right.
I never actually really sort of cherished them or thought about them. And I think, looking back on it, everything went so quick. And I'm always very, very critical about myself, and I never really give myself any time to enjoy, some of the accomplishments, because I'm always like, what's next? And how can I make more people happy? How can I make people happier? And I think, that's definitely one of the things I look on where I'm like, wow, I'm a massive Star Wars fan. I grew up on Star Wars, and for me, Star Wars was the one thing that connected, my brothers and my father and myself. Because you know how men are amongst each other, they don't really talk to each other. The only thing we talked about was like, oh, well, Jabba the Hutt, or like, like, what do you think Luke is going to do next? Like, that's the stuff we talked about.
Right.
And so for me, it really brings me back to that feeling of connecting with my brothers and my father. And I think at the end of the day, everything in life is a Greek tragedy, right? It's like we all kind of just fight for the approval of our father or mother or parents or brothers, sisters, or self-worth. And I think my life isn't any different. So for me, doing this, being a big DJ, whatever that means, doesn't mean much to them, but like me being able to like, be a part of the Star Wars franchise kind of like opened their eyes to like, oh, I think our little brother is kind of like, he's making some moves out there in the world, So to me, that's like, I think on a personal level, it was really, really a special moment.
So now I'm kind of curious, since you do have the comic book line, you've got the clothing line, you got the film production stuff, you're doing music. You ever considered taking up acting?
It's a funny thing that you asked. Like the first thing I actually wanted to do when I grew up was become an actor.
Oh.
But I just have a fear of auditions. So
okay.
I just generally don't like the concept of somebody judging if you're good enough to do anything in the world. Because I think I broke through at a late age, even in music. I only broke through like on a bigger level, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And for me, I've always been struggling with, my self-worth. I've always been struggling with a lot of insecurity. I've been struggling with, things that are probably not going to really help you in an audition. But what I liked about music was like I could reinvent myself. I lost a lot of weight. I cut my hair. I just like started just, kind of like becoming a better version of myself, I guess, both mentally and physically. And it felt like I had a bit more control. That's why I liked electronic music, because it was like, I'm going to buy a computer and I'm going to, just program and play all the instruments myself. And I don't need a band, because when I grew up, there was nobody wanted to form a band with me. That was just a one-man band, like nobody wanted to see. So it gave me a lot of freedom. And I think, for me, that's kind of like, I think that's how everything started for me. And but looking back on it, my initial plan was, this is how I started making music. This is kind of how I approached life. My first booking, nobody wanted to book me. So I was like, okay, then I'm going to throw an event myself. So I had 3 jobs and I saved money, and then I rented a club and I booked myself, and it's kind of the same thing with acting. I was like, nobody's going to hire me for a job. So I bought equipment. I was washing dishes. I was washing people's windows. I worked in a sauna. I did all these jobs, saved all my money, and then I just made the right decisions, I guess. From there on, my first event was a big success. Booked myself again, and I think it's really about, if you really want something, the one thing I learned is that life isn't fair, and I think as long as you know that life is never going to be fair, then life is going to be a lot easier for you. And I think if you really want something, then you have to, there's always a way to create that, to find a way around it. And I guess that's kind of the story to my life. But I had my breakthrough late because I really put a break on everything because I always thought I wasn't good enough. And I think it's, yeah, I mean, you might not see it if you look at me, but that's, you know, I'm still that kid that was in the back of the class that, you know, nobody wanted to talk to, with a long ponytail and a long leather jacket and the army boots, you know, and I think my computer became my best friend. And I think that's why in a lot of the videos and the things that I do in this comic book, you can see that I'm creating these worlds because I've always kind of lived in my own little universe. And that's where the whole Hexagon planet comes from. It comes from that, you know, place of like, if you don't have any friends, you're going to have to create them. And if you don't have something, you're going to have to create it. And I think, you know, looking at a movie like Big Fish, I think reality can be very harsh, and people are always ready to take you down. No, it doesn't matter whoever's listening to this, whether you're studying or you're working, or you always have people around you that are going to take you down. And I think the best way always to approach criticism is just to embrace it. That's the one thing I know, you know. And I think I remember one time someone said something to me like, "Your music sucks. You suck. You're an idiot." I was like, "Oh, what else?" And then it just started like, you know, this happens a lot because people have the idea that they can say anything to an artist to insult them, which is an interesting concept. Because I don't go to your job and go like, "Hey man, those Excel sheets look like," you know, like, and I'm like, whoa. I'm like, well, it's not my bag, whatever you're doing. I'm moving away from this. For some reason, people, you know, like to be very harsh to artists. And I think if you start approaching it like, I remember I said to that person for the first time, "Hey, you're right. I have a big nose. I'm an ugly guy and I make shit music. So what else should we talk about?" And it immediately stopped. It was like, "Oh no, I mean, you're not that, you know, you're not that bad. I mean, you're actually pretty good. I mean, your music isn't, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
That was his answer. I was like, great. Yeah, I mean, that's your opinion. That's fine, you know, like, but you can't live trying to please everyone. I think the most main comment is, there are two comments that are, you know, when you're an artist, and I'm no exception, is like, you miss the old Don Diablo versus, "Oh, you're always doing the same," which is like,
Yeah,
I'm
you can't
confused.
go both
Which one
ways.
is it? Yeah, which one do you want? Do you want me to grow? Are you a fan of me, or are you a fan of the music style that I make? You know, like, I want you guys to go on a journey with me, and it will be pleasurable. It will be amazing. We'll all get older. We'll all start growing. But yeah, I think you can see it on social media, right? If I post something goofy where I do like a funny TikTok loop of 14 seconds, it gets a shitloads of likes and views. But when I post something that really means something for me, that comes from my heart, it's always the real fans that are like, it has a lot of intrinsic value, but it's not something that people share or people are really, you know. And I am very lucky because I seriously, honestly, after all these years, have the best fans in the world. I'm very grateful, and I've invested a lot of time and love into it. But this is kind of how the world is built. If it means something to you, they're not interested in it, and it's something you're gonna have to accept, you know.
Yeah.
Once you can do that, life is going to be a lot easier. So that's a very long answer to your question, but it just got me thinking about going back to acting. It brought me back to that little kid that like had all these dreams. And I think now the good thing is about what I do. Here I come to another point that I was, you know, discussing while writing this book. It's like, who exactly are you? Are you a student? Are you a son? Are you a construction worker? Are you a game player, a soccer player? So it's like, for me, it's like, I guess I'm, you know, people see me, I'm a DJ. That's kind of the dominant profession of what I do, right? It's like, you're having an interview with me, I'm a DJ, and that's how we're talking. I'm talking to you about DJ stuff. You're asking me my opinion about certain things in the scene. But for me, it's like, I think like in life, in a way, we are all actors, right? Like, that's how I see it. This is why I feel like I still fulfilled my dreams, because I'm still an actor. I'm just an actor in the play of life, so to speak. So I play a DJ every now and then, but I also play a fashion designer. I play music video director. I play a comic book writer. I play, you know, I think the only thing is there are dominant professions, and once you become, you know, reasonably good at something, people are going to see you, Don Diablo, DJ, I remember the one thing was when I represented this clothing line, and I got an interview. That someone was asking me about. We went by all the windows, all the designs, and we're standing in this store. We had like a line with over 1,000 people waiting outside. It was mayhem. And the reporter was like, "So you're the designer of this clothing line?" And I had like a friend of mine was like, like this, like like I guess. And then I just looked at him like, what's laughable about this? Am I a joke to you? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you do one thing, you can't be the other thing. It's like, well, in essence, yes, I did make all these designs, and it is my brand, and so I guess technically, yes, I am the designer. But because I always, also in the weekend, I put on records, and I somehow know how to produce records, I cannot be the designer of this. I cannot be a clothing designer as well.
Right.
And I think what I liked about what I'm doing now is like I can still act in my music videos. I can adapt roles that I feel comfortable with, that I can deliver in a reasonable way.
Yeah.
I think there are people who are much better at a lot of things that I do. So I try to find my own boundaries of what it is that I can do. And I think that's what you need to do. It's like, it's not said that you're not good at anything, but you need to find what it is that you're good at, right? Within, you might not see yourself as a singer, but you probably are a lot better than a lot of these, auto-tune singers out there that have massive careers, but you just don't know it. But it's all about dedication and belief, and literally just 100% going for it.
That was a great answer. Sorry. That was a good one.
I don't do chit chats. Sorry.
That was good. We'll get into the you acting in a moment, and when we talk about some of your tracks. Just before we jump into some of your music, I'm curious to know, kind of interesting now is kind of hitting the reboot button right now on a couple of things going on in your life. Looking back to when you did just start out, is there an individual, an event, or a DJ that had a really just profound effect on what you do now?
Yeah, I think I come from, like, my father was a massive music lover. And I grew up, like, I'm named after a gentleman called Don Van Fleet. He's an American. He was an avant-garde artist / painter, musician, singer. He worked a lot with Frank Zappa. So it was very super experimental music, and music without a goal. And I think a lot of things are, can be more authentic when they don't have a goal. And I think that was always my problem, as well as like my blessing in my career, because I never made things with a goal, with an end goal. I made things to create, and just thus I created it, thus it is successful. And I think now society has changed, because we're all looking at, for me, I look at a picture, and if it's in focus, and there's a nice, it's portraying something that gives me some emotions, it's a successful picture. But nowadays for kids, it's like, no, it only got 300 likes. It's my days is now, like, I think the whole level of what is successful is the world has changed, and everything it's all numbers, like, how much is this person making? Oh, my colleague is making more. Or like, I'm in school, I just got this grade, but like, Johnny, who's sitting next to me, got like, got a slightly higher grade, so now I suck. We're not looking at individual, and just, we're not looking at individuals and individual, things that mean something to us. And I think what I liked and then influenced me when I was growing up was, this whole culture of Captain Beefheart, Frank Zappa, the way my father raised me. They were like, we're just going to make music, and we don't need to promote it. We're just, we'll rent a studio with a bunch of musicians. In some cases, they didn't even write songs. They just literally, without an idea, they rented the studio, started playing, and then an album was there, and then they put it out, and they were like, here, it's for you, for the world. And now it's different. Now everyone's like, we need that hook. Where's that hook? Where's the top line? It needs to stream on Spotify. And I think a lot of artists are like, especially in EDM, obviously, right? They're very driven, like, towards success. Like, oh, okay, I need a banger for the clubs, and now I need something that streams. So a lot of people are like losing identity, right? They become a little bit desperate. Like, what's popular now? Well, future house. Let's do something future house. So I think what I liked about that, and I think, that's something that just stayed with me, is like, success is just very relative. I think if you are able to create, that is successful in itself, and also growing up, I saw, you see the greats are also making mistakes, and they all come from somewhere. And I remember once when I, a girl broke my heart, and I couldn't, it broke so hard that I wasn't even able to create anything. So I started traveling the world by myself. And I also started looking at things differently, even like from creation. You put the bar so high. So, if you look at people like Frank Zappa and Captain Evo, they didn't have that fear. And I remember one point I went to a Picasso museum, and I saw like his early works. And I was like, wow, Picasso, he wasn't really that talented, was he? He wasn't. But he made his way. He was talented in the end, of course, but in the beginning, I think the line between, between success. I guess the line between madness and geniusness is just a very thin line, and that thin line is called success. I think anyone out there who's listening right now can be a successful creative. You just don't know it, and you don't have to believe in yourself. But I think there's just a thin little line, because I've operated in that shadow of like, oh, he's crazy. Maybe one day he'll get a real job, versus like, oh, now everything he does is like, oh, it's probably good because he's successful. So it's just a matter of crossing that one line. That's a public perception. If you cross that line already in your head before you do anything, and you don't have a goal with what it is that you want to achieve with, whatever art or whatever it is that you're creating, then you have already won from the start. So it doesn't matter how many likes a picture gets. It doesn't matter how many streams you have. It doesn't matter what, critics are going to say. And I think that's really, going back on it now, has influenced me. And the only thing is, I sometimes get sucked in, by what others are doing, how others are communicating to me. I get sucked in. Even like, this is why people always say, why do you always show up like 3 minutes before your show? It's like, when you're playing at a festival, it's like, because I don't want to hear what others are doing before me. Because, it demotivates me, because it's like, I see the audience as a date. We're going on a date, and I don't want to know how, what abuse has been taking place, musically, because some guys are just moving way too fast sonically, because they want to play all the hits. They want to make all the moves quickly. There's no subtlety. There's like no communication. I want to come in and bring the flowers. I want to give the hug. I want to have the conversation. Then I want to, hopefully, kind of just win her over with my heart. And that's usually that's the answer why I always appear late, because if I sit in one of these rooms, in the backstage somewhere, which I sometimes have to do because I have to show up early for interviews or whatnot. Right. Actually, the reason why I don't really do interviews, I hear all this music. It's like literally, it's like the jukebox machine of hits, and it's like, it makes me very nervous. I'm like, here I am just trying to play like 90% of my own music, while these guys are taking no prisoners and just, playing other people's music hits like their lives depend on it, and it just makes me nervous. So and I think that kind of sometimes, together with the race for likes and streams, kind of like makes you kind of stream away a little bit from, your original train of thought. But yeah, I always have to remind myself of these artists that I grew up with.
Right on. Well, let's talk some of your tracks, shall we?
Yes.
Let's do it.
I'm only human. Just what can I do? 'Cause I feel the fusion when I'm there with you. We're all chemicals, we are. We're all chemicals, we are. We are.
So interesting, because you had a track, Chemicals, with Tiesto. What was it like working with Tiesto?
I mean, he's the OG, right? Like he, you know what I like about Thijs is that I have to remind myself that I don't swear. Can you swear on the podcast? Yeah. So well, Thijs, he doesn't give a like he's like, he doesn't have a worry in the world, which is like makes him again. It's the same example. It makes him a winner by default because he's already won and he's just living his life and doing his thing. So he's just there to give people space. He's always very positive about everyone. Doesn't have any negative energy. And and he just really, again, he was the first one that brought me on stage at Tomorrowland on the main stage doing my track. And the crazy part about that I had a massive car accident like minutes before, so I was like shaking and like everything in my life went wrong until that moment. He didn't even know that until I walked on stage and we did that song together. I saw those people and I saw like, wow, this is pretty special. And he was just oozing that positiveness and I really admire that in Thijs, because he's not, in a way, he doesn't. I mean, I think maybe my thoughts are sometimes a little bit too deep, and I go inside my head 1,000 times, and he's a bit more straightforward. He really knows, he's mastered the art of enjoying life and giving other people joy.
You had a car accident moments before you got on stage.
Yes.
My goodness. He's just talking about being nervous just sitting there before a show.
No, I mean, exactly. I had to run to that main stage. I was never on that stage. And if you look back at the image now I'm literally, my smile is like so big. So I felt like I won life. And I think that's basically, you know what it is? Like, at the end of the day, we all judge people, like we hold a mirror in front of them and we kind of just throw out quick judgments. But we don't know what that person what that person went through. We don't know where they're coming from, and we don't know any of those things. And I think, if people would have known what had happened before that, they would have understood why there are like literally tears in my eyes in that moment, because I felt like, wow, life, wow. That's why it was such a happy moment. But I think I always try to approach everything that way, thinking like, I don't know what someone else has gone through. I don't know why that person is saying something. And I think that was a typical moment where I think he didn't understand why I was so euphoric.
Yeah, right. Oh, well, we love the track here at the station. That's one of my favorites you did with Tiesto.
Thank you so much.
So, yeah. Another track, and you mentioned earlier about doing kind of like directing and acting in your own music videos, was Save a Little Love. And for those who haven't seen that video, you got the dancers going on, and then throughout the video, you're just doing kind of like random stuff. Like you're just you're shelling out the money, you're on a bike.
Darling, I see it's wearing you down. You got so much to do, but I just want you around. Darling, I see the look in your eyes. You're too tired for love after working all night. Work all week and chase money. Can't you see? Real love is for free. Real love is for free. Come on. 1, 2, 3. Won't you save a little love for me? If you save a little love for me, I can show you how love can be. Oh, wait, let's see. Won't you save a little love for me? If you save a little love for me, I can show you how love can be.
That's literally what it is. Like I don't take anything too seriously. I don't think, I think guys who take like the whole DJ thing too seriously, it's a bit laughable in a way, because that's why I always hold random objects during my shows and in the pictures I'm holding, because it's like, who wants to see a picture like every week of a guy standing with his hands in the air in front of a big crowd? Nobody. So I was like, but maybe they want to see this object, That's where the random object came from, because it's not really about me. Like, who wants to, like, how interesting is my face or whatever. So that's why I, even with the clothing, I was like, I have an obligation to entertain people, and even maybe come up with a cool outfit every big show and put in some effort. yeah, it was the same thing. With I guess it's just a lot of stuff I do feels random, but there is always a thought behind it.
Right. It's a good random.
I hope so. Yeah.
It is.
I think it's just more about like I like, as I said, I don't see the concept of looking at the same picture 100 times over.
Another track that was huge for us here on the station. Was,
about the music video. I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, we can go to that. Yeah.
No, sorry. It's like, for me, that was like, people like looking at people dancing. But I was like, I always try to add, whenever there's something that exists, I try to add like a little twist to it. I guess that's kind of the Don Diablo way.
Yes.
And I was like, we don't need to make it too complicated. Like, this is already cool. I have my aesthetics with, the skull paint, the outfits, etc. But then, I think it kind of adds like a little bit of innocence, and it kind of also shows the way I am. Because at the end of the day, I'm a big kid. At the end of the day, I'm still like, I'm gonna put a pinball machine in my bedroom, and I'm gonna do that. Or if I want, all these things where I'm like. I think that's the biggest trap you can have is to actually become an adult, and I think because kids never have any fear, they're always like goofy, they do everything they want to do that gives them pleasure in life, and sometimes a little dramatic. I think that's maybe same thing goes for me, but I think that's that's kind of where that comes from. It's basically me just never just growing up. So sorry about that.
Yeah, no. We've had some great conversations so far. It's been good. So another great track was Save a Little Love. We love that one.
Wake me when it's quiet.
Probably one of the biggest tracks of yours for our station so far has been Wake Me When It's Quiet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a really great song that I loved, and it was kind of a really just chill, kind of like a vibe to it. Just talk about making that track.
That track was really about when Tim Avicii passed away.
Right.
It just gave such a shockwave in our scene, and it, obviously it's the first time someone I felt like I identified with so strongly, and I felt like, we're peers. That really like it put me in a place where it was really hard to process what can I say about this. And then there was this girl in Sweden who was still in school. And, she sent me the song and through a mutual friend, and I heard it, and it was just an a cappella, and I was like, wow, it's so beautiful, so heartfelt. I don't want to put it out as just a Don Diablo record. It should be you, and then me supporting you. That's where the Hilda song came from. And it was very pure, and I did want to like add like a lot of layers of emotion to it. But at the same time, I'm always like, I hope that you can always hear when a track is a Don Diablo track. So I did add like some of the sonic aspects in there, and a lot of like harmonies and things going on that, even made me, even from a technical point of view, I got excited about it. But the song mostly obviously is a song with heart, and it's a song that really is an ode to Tim and to anyone out there who's like struggling with, darkness inside of their heads. Which I'm no exception to. So, that record was, for me as well, it's definitely a very, very special record.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites too. So we love it. And your latest track, deeper meaning potentially behind this one as well. 1,000 Faces with Andy Grammer. Is there a deeper meaning behind this track for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, I think EDM. I think a lot of people just, I guess they just judge EDM being, I guess an empty vessel of people just pushing buttons. And I think if I am an artist that is in the EDM scene, I guess I am, which is still, I always still surprised about all that. Every day I wake up, it's a surprise.
Yeah.
Things that people are dragging me into, like, oh, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you have to make this should sound like that. I'm like, oh, I didn't know there was a rule book. Where do I find a rule book? Let me find it. So for me, I'm just making music, and it happens to have an electronic undertone. And, you know, a lot of the songs that mean most to me are the records that the lyrics, from the lyrics to the music are 100% written by me.
There's a thousand faces, but you're not around. Would I make you proud if you could see me now? I still remember when I was young, I'd sit in the backseat while you played your songs. Some days when I'm lonely, I still put them on, and there in those moments, it's like you're not gone. I've come so far, but once in a while it breaks me. I try twice as hard to be half the man you made me. There's a thousand faces, but you're not around. Would I make you proud if you could see me now? There's a thousand voices in an endless crowd, but I'd give it away if it meant I could see you now.
And this is one of those songs. It's a letter I wrote to my father, and 8 years after his passing, and it's really, I guess, you know, like what is success if you can't share it with anyone, right?
Pictures can't capture the light in your eyes. Even there at your lowest, you can still make me smile. You fought like a lion, and you loved to the end. And I have you to thank for the person I am. I've come so far, but once in a while it breaks me. I try twice as hard to be half the man you made me. There's a thousand faces, but you're not around. Would I make you proud if you could see me now? There's a thousand voices in an endless crowd, but I give it away if I meant I could see you now.
Growing up, I said the only thing I wanted was to make my dad proud, and I felt like I never made it, you know, during, you know, while he was still alive. And I actually, the first moment, the week after he passed, I got a sort of a divine moment in my head where I started seeing all of these melodies, ideas, patterns, creative inputs. So I almost feel like my success isn't even mine, it's my dad's, you know, like I feel like it has nothing to do with me. I felt like from that moment, I got driven by so much passion, and I really wanted to thank him for that. And I wish that he could see me now. And you know, I always stare into like thousands of faces, and I hear thousands of voices, but I always sometimes fantasize that he's there and he's standing there and he can see me, and you know, he sees what I've done and how I've, you know, how I did him right, and you know, of I guess just the, you know, the family name, upholding that, and taking care of my mom, and just trying to be a good human being. I make my mistakes and I get judged for it, and I you know, but he knows that everything comes from a good heart and a good place. And you know, I think it would be so amazing if you could see it now, and that's really what that song is about.
Yeah, I'm kind of playing the song in my head as you talk about it, which makes me kind of enjoy it even more now, knowing kind of the backstory and hearing you talk about it. So we added it for new music last week, and it's now instantly one of my favorites after hearing you discuss it. So that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go on my Instagram, for instance, there's a story there. There's like 6 videos I recorded having conversations with my dad in the afterlife.
Yeah.
That's actually and those are the lyrics to the song. So they are literally they come from my mouth, and it was amazing because I approached Andy like, would you be open to, you know, singing my story, and he did, and which is amazing because he, you know, he has an amazing voice and he has that emotional undertone that I was looking for. But this is a very, very personal record.
Yeah, it's a great track. It's gonna have massive success. We know it.
Fingers crossed. I mean,
crossed.
The thing is, like, there's no better feeling than when a record that actually means something to you does well, you know, like, especially in a world where there's just a bunch of top lines being sent to each other and some productions being slapped around it, and then just hoping, you know, it's going to stream or playlist. I think, you know, for me, the records that are extra special to me are actually some of the records you just mentioned, and really come from my heart. So yeah, it would mean the world to me if this obviously at least reaches its full potential.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you know what we said, right?
Yep.
The principle is always, if you created it, it's successful. You know.
Yes.
There's no end goal.
Yes. Well, kind of a culmination of the story in your creation of Hexagon. You mentioned earlier kind of that futuristic place you kind of seen yourself through. Is that kind of where the Hexagon label came from?
I think, Hexagon has two things in itself. If you look at the logo, it's a combination of, the hexagon shape, which is kind of refers to the future. And the A in the middle stands, because we were like, well, why the A? Like, your name doesn't start with an A. I'm like, correct, because it's also the Diablo logo, or is it just the hexagon logo? No, it's a logo that's like an emblem, like a symbol. That's not about me, and it's inspired on the Anarchy logo, the original punk logo, but in a futuristic way. So it's like, it kind of means like there's no rules in the future. That's what the symbol stands for, and it's basically you make up your own future. So you can switch, change whoever you want, to wherever you want to be. And then, the hexagon concept itself is the six corners represent different parts of your life between birth and death, and those are the moments that you have to make them count. But you always get another chance, and there's always a different side to everything. There's a bigger philosophy behind that even, but to keep it shorter for your radio show, it's for your podcast, it's that's the short philosophy behind it. And the great thing as well, it's a word as well that's in every language. It's the same word, so it's universal.
Universal hexagon. And something else that is really streamed universal is your Hexagon Radio show.
Yes, that's like a task in itself, my man. Like, it's like every week I spend hours and hours listening to music and putting in so much work, and it all comes down to discipline at the end of the day. You kind of forget about results, and you work from a place of discipline. And I approach every radio show still like it's a song, and I want to make the best one. And if that's the first one you're going to hear, that's the only one you're going to hear, it's going to be like, wow, this radio show is super sick, That's kind of how I see everything that I do. It doesn't matter. Like, I always think about, like, if this is the only thing that someone's going to see of me, then it should be, the best thing I'm actually able to do at that point in time. And that's how I approach the radio show. And it's cool because remember I had like someone like Pete Tong, who's like the OG on BBC, come to me, like, we check your radio show to listen to, what new music is coming out. Even Tiesto, even Thijs was like, we listen to your radio show, and we, you're always kind of like, you're the first one to discover things. And that's because I'm doing it myself, and I'm listening through hundreds of demos and promos, every day. And it's not really sexy. It's not something that people can see on social media.
Right.
At the end of the day, you have to put in the craft, and it's like really, it's like a race. It's like a Formula One race. You need to stay sharp every day, and at every corner, someone can overtake you. And I think for me, it's really about, delivering the best thing I can by putting in the work. Because there's no such thing as when you have success that it'll just stay there. Because it'll fade away one day if you don't uphold it. It's like being in a marriage, right? So like I'm in a marriage with my fans. I gave them my vows, and now I have to, they've been so nice as to follow me and to give me, and all these opportunities. So I have to give them back the same respect, and uphold the vows that the unspoken vows.
I just related to you a ton when you were saying picking out the new music, because one of my jobs here at the station is to deliver and pick and play the new music tracks. And every Monday I'm sitting here just scrolling through all these songs and trying to pick the ones that I think people would want to hear and enjoy the most. And it's tedious, and it's not the sexy work, and it's the behind the scenes stuff that, social media stuff, it's not really seen. So.
No, but you do a great job at it. So, I mean, I think this is the only interview I'm doing, like, in 2 months' time. So I guess we're here for a reason. So, yeah.
Well, we appreciate you doing it. And just in closing now, Don, obviously for all your latest updates, obviously shows might not be going on, but all the latest updates regarding you, your social medias, Instagram, Twitter, and then obviously your website, dondiablo.com would be a good place to go check everything out, right?
Correct. Yeah, or just go listen to my music on Spotify, Apple Music, or YouTube. I have a bunch of really, I feel like really cool live sets on YouTube, where I play like anything from old school hardcore rave to like drum and bass to like house to ambient chill out music. Kind of take you on a journey. So I there's a lot to discover. I think I in the world of Don Diablo.
Yeah.
So sometimes I feel like you might drown, but it's all, just take your time and hopefully there's something there for you that, it's a good spot somewhere in your heart.
Yeah. Well, in the upcoming months, what can all the Don Diablo fans expect? You mentioned finishing up an album and all these comics and everything. Is that what's going to be going on?
Yeah, for sure. Like there'll be a new edition of the comic book soon, but that will be bundled. The end game is it will be bundled into a book, a super physical book. And then obviously music, because I think, I don't want to say anything, but I feel like if you can listen to like 1,000 Faces, you can hear the level of detail and love I put into that record. I am sharper than ever. I'm at home. I put in so much hard time, effort into just one record. Yeah. So I think some of my best music is on the way. And I'm also doing. I'm actually involved in some cool projects that are not just music. I really want to work on one thing that I can say is like I really want to work on a more bespoke Don Diablo platform, where everything comes together and I'm not dependent on, likes, follows, algorithms. Because when you post something on Instagram, you just have to pray that your followers actually see it.
Yeah.
So I'd like to create like an environment where, I can just be with my fans can be with each other, and there are more things that we can do that, that are creative and bring people together. So that's another goal that I have. And I'm working on concretely. So.
Well, we will be excited to hear all the new music and see all the projects come finished. So, Don, once again, this has been phenomenal, and I really appreciate you doing this.
Of course. Thank you for having me once again. And stay safe. To everyone out there who's listening, thank you for tuning in for these long monologues. And I appreciate you. Thank you for all the support, by the way.
Yeah, it has been great. Yeah. All right, so Don, stay safe out there. And this is the latest edition of Open Mic here with DJ WhtDaHek. That was Don Diablo. I'll see you next time.